We are live on the WagerTalk TV YouTube channel. This is First Pitch. My name is Andrew McGinnis, joined by Dave Koken, Brian Leonard, Steve Merrill. Game 6, World Series, Dodgers, Rays. Let's just wrap the show up, guys. Couple-minute show. Who's taking it? No. We won't do that. We'll dive in a little bit deeper. We'll do some analyzing and go over the weekend as well. Dave, I haven't seen you in a couple of days. How are things?
Pretty good. Hit the big play on Sunday, the 5% of the 49ers, which turned out to be the easiest play on the board. So that's the way you want those 5%. Other than that, it was kind of a back and forth weekend, but I was happy to get that one in. And I don't know if I'll have a 5% play up this week or not. I've got a couple of 4s up now. But I'll mention the 5% plays. This is going back 13 months now on all 5% plays, 76+%, including 4-0 in football so far this year. So when those come up, they're worth playing, that's for sure. I have a small play on tonight's game, which I will tell you about in the context of this show. So it's not for sale individually anyway. It's only a 2% play, but I'll tell you what it is as we go along here.
Definitely. Brian, how are things with you, man? I know you were saying last week that you enjoy watching the college football with your wife. Sunday footballs, maybe just more of a you or you and the guys type of thing. How was the weekend?
Yeah, it was really good. I also had a 5-star this weekend. I had Rutgers, a nice outright winner.
Awesome.
That's the way 5-star should be. And unfortunately, I had lost 3 straight going into that, but still 39-18 on 5% plays. So I really needed that one, and it was a really good one. Unfortunately, as of right now, I don't see anything like that for this week. But hey, you keep reading and may come up with something. I do have an NFL play up right now that I really like, and we're getting some pretty good information on the NFL. So right now, people are signing Des Bryant, and other players are coming back from injuries. So a lot of good information right now. If you keep up on that, if you like to bet, Carolina on I believe they play Thursday, is getting McCaffrey back. So
was that a Freudian slip on Des Bryant as opposed to Anthony Brown?
Well, Des Bryant, they did say, is coming back. I think Baltimore just signed him to the practice.
Oh, they did? I missed this.
Yeah, to the practice squad. So I don't know if that's a good thing or not.
How old is he? He's like 40, isn't he?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hopefully he doesn't make the team, because I don't know if I want that guy on my team if I've got a good quality team. But we'll leave that to the others.
Well, it sounds like it was a fun weekend, especially when you get an outright winner like that, Brian. So hopefully we'll continue it. And from the sounds of it, I think that what you were saying last week about the NFL and how things were going, I'm the same as you, where I actually like this time of the year for handicapping the NFL. A lot of people seem to love the beginning of the season. I like this part of the season where things are potentially turning around. And I guess I'd start to think that instead of week 2 or 3, I find the overreactions start to come right now, and you can kind of expose some weird lines. Steve, we'll throw it to you. Obviously, I know you're involved in college football and NFL action. Obviously, we got World Series Game 6. How was your weekend?
Oh, it's good. Won again last night with the under a Monday Night Football, so now 7-1, 88% run since Saturday night. And Brian talked about that Rutgers game. I actually had 2 Big Ten plays last week on Friday and Saturday, both blowout winners with Wisconsin and Northwestern. And then I just did Wager Talk today with Prez and Teddy an hour ago, which is still on YouTube TV, on Wager Talk TV. And 2 of my 3 games were actually Big Ten games coming up, including the Rutgers game this weekend. So those that are interested in more college football analysis, we've got some posted right now. Watch the Tuesday edition of Wager Talk today. And then more best bets this week in football. And let's hope maybe we get a Game 7. There's a 45% chance that we'll have a game tomorrow on Wednesday, guys, to bet. Otherwise, there's nothing but tennis. No football till Thursday.
Yeah, definitely. I personally owe you a thank you for that winner on Wisconsin, Steve. So I appreciate that.
We talked about that Friday after the show. Yeah.
So you better believe I laid a bet on it, and I was following the game a little bit. So certainly appreciate that, and definitely the kind of guy to mention that kind of stuff if somebody gives me a play. And I believe all of you guys have done that. And I'm not a college football guy, so. But hey, it's fun to watch.
It's good to know, Andrew, because then I'll keep giving you the right side. Because had it lost, I'd have to give you the opposite side of all the games.
Exactly. So I'm 1-0 with you.
That was a test.
I'm 1-0 with you.
You passed the jinx test. You're good to
go. Sounds good to me. And as far as KBO, guys, KBO special, Korean Baseball Organization. There's a special at both my website and at Dave's, wt.buzz/DC, wt.buzz/AM. Dave and I are the only people doing the Korean baseball. And I know a lot of you guys that are currently in this chat box right now were also joining Dave and I in the chat box while we were doing our Korean baseball show. Instead of just offering a package individually for either Dave or for just myself, Dave and I have teamed up, and we have one package that if you buy it, you'll get all of our plays together. Both of them, the second they're released, right to your email. KBO playoffs started at the early November, and I think Dave's been pretty hot. For myself right now, it's close to 50% return on investment since mid-July. Another winning day for me in the KBO this morning. So I never thought I'd be telling you guys that KBO has been my best sport in the past 4 months. But hey, a winning ticket is the winning ticket, and I'll take it any way I can get it. Why don't we just get right into the stuff, guys? Why don't we start off paint a little bit of a picture for us, Dave, as we lead into Game 6.
Well, if the Dodgers win, it's over, and if Tampa wins, there's a game tomorrow. And there's your picture. The zigzag theory is 4-0 in this series so far. That's a simple angle where you just play whoever lost the previous game. A lot of people like to do that in the NBA and the NHL playoffs. I don't really follow it much, but it has worked in this series. And I do think it's got a really good chance to work again here, not because it's the zigzag angle, but I think there's some things that favor Tampa in this game. I give Snell an edge in the starting pitching over Gonsolin. Snell was very sharp until he gave up the 2 runs in the 5th inning of his first start. And the Dodgers are not quite as, the Dodgers lineup is ridiculous regardless of who they're facing, but they're not quite as daunting against left-handers. The thing I do like in this game is that with yesterday off, both bullpens are completely fresh. And it's no guarantee it's going to work out this way, but there isn't any question that Kevin Cash utilizes his bullpen a lot better than Dave Roberts does. I don't know what Roberts was doing on Sunday. That was just bizarre. He got away with it, and they held on and won the game, but I didn't think he was giving his team the best chance to win with the way he was maneuvering. In a game that figures to be largely bullpen tonight, because we know Snell is basically twice through the order and he's out of there. And then Cash starts mixing and matching the rest of the way. And Gonsolin is not a guy who's going to go long distance for the Dodgers. You probably got 4 or 5 innings of bullpens here. Not that the Rays have better arms in the bullpen, but the Rays have better utilization of the arms in the bullpen. I think that's enough of an edge to warrant a small play on Tampa. I didn't make it a big play. I only made it a 2% play because my numbers really didn't indicate much value, of like maybe 5 cents, 10 cents of value tops on Tampa. That's generally not enough for me to make a play. But it is Game 6. It might be the last game. And I think there's enough there for a small call on the Rays at plus money. You're muted, Andrew.
Sorry, just to get you to elaborate on that, Dave, about the whole day off, because we've mentioned this throughout the playoffs numerous times and how that really affects it. And you've talked about Cash pretty much all playoff long. It's been very clear that you think he's a smart manager.
He's the best manager in the game.
And I think you've said it. It's not really as much against Roberts, but it's more so that Cash is better. But I guess this time around, is it a little bit against Roberts?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Roberts is look. They're up 3-2, but it's not because of Roberts.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's made
several
questionable moves in this series. He's gotten away with with some of them. He also has not gotten away with a couple of them. And it doesn't guarantee the same thing's going to happen. Maybe tonight Roberts is the genius and Cash blows it. You never can tell from one game to the next. But is the manager worth anything on the line? I think maybe a nickel. I'm not going to go nuts about it. It's not like 25 cents advantage, but I think I give Tampa 5 cents on the manager.
As you approach this game here, Brian, and you look at what we saw in Game 5, obviously you want to take every game as its own new game, especially in baseball, new pitchers, the day off, rested bullpens. But based off what you learned from Game 5, how do you approach Game 6?
Yeah, Dave talked about the zigzag thing. I think a lot of that has to do with the two teams we're seeing play in this series. Both teams were very good off of a loss. I think I saw somebody, I may have been Rob Michaels, talked about how good Tampa Bay is after losing by 2 or more runs. The Dodgers have been fantastic after a loss. So when you get teams with that kind of ability, teams with bullpens like these two teams have, I could see neither team really getting a long winning streak here. I talked just the other day about teams off of a day off, and I talked about the Dodgers scoring 6.75 runs when they have the day off beforehand. That was before the 23rd, where they played Tampa. They scored 6 runs in that one in a 6-2 win. The Dodgers, with the rest, are a very good hitting team. Tampa Bay is slightly better with a day of rest than they are not. But we talked about this last time where the bullpens set up, and everybody thinks it's going to be a low scoring game because of the bullpens. But when you have a good hitting team, like especially with the Dodgers here, that extra day off really helps the offense. I know you got some guys on these teams that are banged up at the moment. So normally I would look at something that would be lower scoring, and the last game was the first game that they played in the last 2 years that actually was lower scoring, didn't score at least 8 runs. I expect more of a scoring game here, leaning with the over. You talk about Gosselin. Roberts came out, and you never know what they're saying is really going to happen. But he says Gosselin's a starting pitcher here as opposed to the opener he was the other day. He says, I'd love to see him get 5 or 6 innings. So I don't know if that's just talk after having the day off yesterday where the bullpens are coming back, or if he's just or if he is actually trying to keep Gosselin in the game longer. He's got a game to worry about. They can lose this game and still play the next game. So it's not as important as Tampa, but Tampa's coach has already come out and said, he goes, we may be pulling the starter early. We're all in on this game. So if you're looking, I don't do a lot with strikeout props, but keep that in mind that, your original thought would be the Dodgers starter wouldn't be in long and Tampa Bay's would be in longer. At least the words out of the coaches are saying that it might be something different.
It's interesting, Brian, because I was going to bring that up actually to Steve next, but I know that you're always filled with knowledge with that as well. And, when we look at that, the number is 5.5, shaded to the under at a -120 for Gonsolin strikeouts. And everything that I've looked at and the formulated opinions that I've created is that I think it's a couple innings, right? And to look at this Rays team, do you think that's a strategy, Brian, that they'll try and really exaggerate those at bats? Because even for a 5.5, and it's so interesting to me watching these, because throughout these playoffs specifically, I've been watching these strikeout props, and for a guy like Kershaw, you might see a 7.5 or an 8.5, and then for this one, it's a 5.5. But I'm dominantly leaning under because of the expected strategy going into it, and especially with a team with the lead. Don't you think there might be a short leash?
It could be a short leash, but it's a situation for me where I don't want to play an under in strikeouts with Tampa Bay. They average 10.28 strikeouts on the season, whereas the Dodgers only 8.14. So that tells you right there that the Dodgers are the better team of fighting for, the bats longer at bats and getting the starting pitcher out of there. So that was my concern. I wouldn't want to play Tampa Bay under in strikeouts. They just strike out too much for my liking.
So, Brian, just based off your analysis there, is there any type of in-game total you'd be interested in? Obviously, it's easier said than done before a game actually starts.
Yeah, I'd have to see what the strike zone looks like, how they're calling the game, and what the pitchers are looking like. That's what the whole in-game part of the handicap is.
For sure.
Is that you get more information than you do before the game starts.
We've got Ski Prophet Hakeem in the house here. Get Roberts out of LA, he says. Clear Lakers fan and Dodgers fan. So he's making his opinion about Roberts. So clearly he's a little frustrated with some things. I've been saying this all year long, but a lot of kind words going out in this chat box today. Just want to thank all of you guys for tuning in. And if this is our last show, it's been a blast doing this. And, I hope to be back doing this again next year and keep moving forward with this baseball show, and the production based on my knowledge is just going to keep getting better and better and better. As you guys can tell with WagerTalk today and Bet on It, all these shows on WagerTalk TV are just getting stronger and stronger. Somebody asked about the price for Dave and I's KBO. That's 178 for us combined together. Originally 339. That's good until the start of the playoffs. The second that playoff starts, the price disappears. So 178 is the price to get all of our KBO plays combined. That's at Dave's profile page as well. Steve Merrill at Steve Merrill on Twitter. Last but certainly not least, we'll get your thoughts here, side and total.
Yeah, 178 is a weird price. I assume that's Korean won that's being priced in and not the U.S. dollar. I'll have to check on that, 'cause
it is a weird price. Obviously, they had to set it up because, I get more than Andrew. He's getting $1 of that, and I'm getting the 177.
So my coffee almost just went all over my computer screen.
Did I tell you that already?
Well, seniority matters.
Andrew, that's a better return on your time investment than the UFC show was. And you actually, once again, check on that Korean won transfer. That might work out for you there too. I think it's like 1,000 to 1 or something.
You know what sucks is that I wish we could get the Korean fried chicken that they sell at the ballparks there, because I hear it's just like the absolute best ballpark food that you can get. I don't think they're selling it because of the pandemic. They do have fans back, which is awesome. And but I wouldn't mind getting down there one time before my days are done, because after watching it all summer, I could just imagine how exciting it is with the fans in the stands. They are just tremendously into it. It's really fun.
Yeah, Dave, we'll get into it more when we start doing our KBO playoff show, which we will be doing in the next short little time here. But a guy my dad plays basketball with every single week, he just dropped on me when I told him I was doing KBO betting that he used to live in Korea as a teacher, teaching English. And he's like, I went to LG Twin games every single weekend. He said they were an absolute party. So I was like, are you kidding me? You didn't tell me this for the past several months while I told you I was betting the Korean baseball? And he said it's the biggest. He said, I'd rather go to, a park in Korea than Wrigley Field with the amount of partying I did in Korea. So it sounded like it was a blast. But back to the game tonight and the North American World Series here, Steve. We'll get your thoughts on this game.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm in on that Korea trip, Dave. I'd love to do that as well.
Yeah,
I know Brian Leonard loves to do spring training trips, so maybe we'll convince Brian to do the Korean.
Actually, I hate to cut you off, but Kevin Dolan, one of our handicappers, he's Irish, but he just moved back, but he was living in South Korea, and he happened to be in Vegas. And I was talking to him. This was back when, the virus was starting to come out and all, and they hit there first, and so he came here, avoiding the virus. And yeah, he's a guy who's been all around the world. And if you ever want to ask about it, he's the guy to do it.
I'm in. Let's get this Korean trip set up maybe in like 5 years, and we can all travel again, and we'll be good.
Yeah,
really. Yeah.
It's cool that you guys are doing the Korean baseball to all seriousness, because, I mentioned that there's no game tomorrow. If we don't get a game 7, sports is going to be limited, and we're not going to have baseball or basketball or hockey. So Korean baseball is going to be a great bankroll builder. So all jokes aside, won or dollars, that 178 is a great deal to get 2 for 1 basically. And I hope Andrew can negotiate a little better deal and get $2 maybe. We'll talk about that afterwards. Andrew, it's interesting you found a strikeout prop, by the way, for Gosselin, because I'm looking at DraftKings and Snell is 5.5 to the over, and I don't see anybody else on the strikeout props. So that is an interesting one to keep an eye on. I like what Brian said about how Roberts is quoted as saying he's going to go longer. It makes sense because, once again, they don't have to win tonight, like Brian said. So I can't imagine you want to tax your bullpen. But with that said, scared money never wins, and playing not to lose is never a great strategy either. And I think that's another reason the Rays do have a chance tonight, and a good chance. Odds are saying 45% based on the money line. I'd say it's close to that, maybe 50-50. I talked about how I like to look at road numbers in regular season games. We talked about this before Game 1. If you look at road games only, regular season, the Rays were right there with the Dodgers, maybe 1 or 2 spots below OPS, above them in batting average a couple spots. Not a big difference in these offenses. And then you factor in the fact they played the AL East and the NL East versus the Western divisions. Schedule strength was tougher. Really can make an argument the Rays offense, other than the strikeouts, is just as good as the Dodgers at times. I think they do have the better pitcher probably on the mound tonight in Snell. We could very well see a Game 7. I'm not a conspiracy guy, but obviously the networks would probably love it tomorrow night as well. I don't know if the umpires got the memo. We'll have to ask Tony Finn on that one. But we'll see what happens. Snell, by the way, 9 strikeouts in that last game but he did not do quite as well in the other two playoff games. So I think he's the real X factor tonight for how this one goes for either team.
And this is kind of a crapshoot here. I'm taking a shot in the dark. I know all three of you guys are pretty, veteran handicappers. So I don't know if you guys look at this stuff, but do you guys ever take into consideration, or have you seen anything regarding a prop as far as bases or home runs? Is something that either three of you guys have looked at before?
Not me. I mean, but I'm probably the most boring handicapper at WagerTalk. Because I just basically stick to sides or totals depending on the sport, and I don't get into much exotic stuff.
The lines change. The lines are so much different at every other place. It's tough when you give out something like that. I followed guys in the past, over 6.5 minus 110. By the time I get it at 7 minus 150, it's not worth my time for the most part.
Right.
Yeah,
I've looked at it. Go ahead. Sorry, Steve.
No, go ahead. Finish your thought. I'll throw something in after.
I was just going to say, I've looked at some of these just total bases throughout the playoffs and the World Series. It was 1.5, I believe, in game 2 for Mookie Betts. He not only got on base, he also stole a base. He also got a home run, which obviously would cash that on its own. So it's interesting to look at, but I think more than anything itself would definitely be one of those things that really is about the price, because I'm not interested in getting in on certain things without a great value here. Like I see Mookie Betts right now listed at plus 410 to steal a base. And then we talk about how not really to use the phrase nothing to lose. However, I really think that, there might be worth a small play on that based off what we've seen from him.
Well, but what is Snell's? And I don't know what the answer is to this.
Snell's a lefty.
How does Snell cannot be easy to steal off?
Yeah, it's a great point being a left-handed starter. Yeah. I think that plays that doubles the chances. It goes from 2-1 to 4-1 probably because of that in the odds. I wouldn't be laying 1-5 or 1-6, whatever the other side is, that he won't steal a base, because we've seen what he can do. But staying on bets, it's a great analogy with these props. I don't mess with them much as well. But we had somebody in the YouTube comments, I believe, after maybe Friday's show after Game 3, or it might have been Saturday's show that I did with Dave and Matt after Game 4, asking about the bets over 1.5 bases. And I said, well, it's an automatic play for me every game because he gets a steal and he gets, on if he gets a double. But then the guy got chimed back in that his book, it counts hits only. So you got to really read between the lines. And it shows I don't mess with this. Maybe that's the standard, but that's really misleading in my opinion. And I'd be very careful with that. Because that just seemed too good to be true. We talked about it on the show last week that bets over 1.5 bases, if you're really doing it by true baseball statistics, a walk and a steal is 2 bases. And that just seems like that would be the only way to play that. So you got to be careful with that. One thing I want to bring up, though, on the props, I'm glad you brought this up, Andrew, because I was looking at this at the top of the show. They've got adjusted MVP props for the World Series. And I don't mess with these much. We talked about before Game 1. Seager is now 2-1. Kershaw's 2-1. They're the likely winners. Bueller 6.5 to 1. But the guy in the middle there, Ozarino for Tampa, 6.5 to 1. If the Rays win this, the next 2 games, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. Look at the adjusted series price right now. They're like plus 410. It makes no sense to play the Rays at plus 410 if you think they're going to win the next 2 games. You take him at plus 650 to be the MVP.
That makes sense.
Back to our Super Bowl, with the quarterback analogy, when you can have a money line underdog at 2-1 or take the underdog quarterback at 4-1 to win the MVP. It always is worth a look. Do you guys disagree? I don't see any way that Tampa doesn't come back and win 2 games. Probably.
What's the MVP? What is the Dodgers? Let me ask something. What's the Dodgers series price?
They're about minus 520. Take back.
So you could actually.
So you can middle it. Yeah.
You could actually take a shot at the middle. Dodgers series and a Rosarina MVP.
I like that. Yeah, you're getting about a 100-cent middle there on minus 510 to minus 550 plus 650. That's not a bad way to go. I mean, there's a scenario where he couldn't win it, I guess, but he's done so.
I don't know how.
He's already broken records. He could basically sit out these unless he gets injured. I guess. How does he not win it?
I can't see how. I don't see any way that anybody else on Tampa can win it.
Yeah,
the interesting thing is here's the interesting thing. As to why that middle isn't a bad idea, it's possible. I don't think it's likely, but it's possible that if this goes 7 games and the Dodgers win Arozarena could still win the MVP.
Yeah.
If Kershaw
Possible.
Game 7 and he pitches well, Kershaw will.
Well, no, he's not going to pitch Game 7. Buehler's pitching.
It'd be Buehler. That's why Buehler's in the conversation, because if it goes Game 7 and they win,
exactly, he's plus 60 along with him. Kershaw's 2-1, Buehler's 6-1, 6.5.
So you wonder if it's possible that you might see the Dodgers votes split up if they win 7 games between 3 guys: Buehler, Kershaw, and Seager. Whereas Tampa's only got 1 guy. I mean, it's clearly a Rosarena. It's an interesting potential middle.
I like it. Yeah, I really think it's interesting too. DraftKings has the Dodgers at minus 590, which is extremely high. Other books 510, 560, 520. But even DraftKings, you can middle them in their own book and get away with it. We've got a lot of viewers out there. I'm sure some will take advantage of it. Those are in New Jersey and the other states. Go for it. I hope it hits for you guys.
Yeah,
that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing 530 as the low on the Dodgers to win the series. And as high as Westgate's at 600.
You're always breaking down these numbers on the series prices, Steve. And right now, seeing this number that we have for the Dodgers on the money line tonight, I mean, obviously it's easier said than done, but what do we expect here? If we go to a Game 7, what's the price of this game?
Well, I mean, they're saying tonight that there's a 55% chance the Dodgers win. The series price is saying an 82% chance the Dodgers win. So it'll be a much bigger price, obviously.
It'll be 165, 170.
Which is about the highest we've seen so far in the series. So I would
and then you'll have the interesting scenario of the guy who's in winner-take-all games. Charlie Morton has like the best numbers of all time.
Mm-hmm.
He's been amazing.
Well, you've got a series that opened up at what? At numerous points, we had a minus 200, and I believe we saw like a minus 180 at one point. It went down actually when it was 1-1. Now we see this extraordinary price we have here on the series, but the game to win the World Series is minus 125, 130. So clearly, if you like the Dodgers to win, and you're trying to get on this now, there's no chance in hell that you're taking the series price. You're betting. You're betting them to win.
Is that the better team wins in a longer series? That's why when you have a 3-game series like they did originally here, the underdogs had a real live chance. So anytime you've got the favorite in the series, he's going to be higher at the beginning. Then if it goes 1-1, then it goes a little bit lower. If it goes 2-2, goes a little bit lower. Yes. And that's the way it should work out.
Definitely. What's interesting, though, Andrew, is that if you take the Rays tonight and say plus 120, play $100, you win. You'll have 220 to roll back over. Say David's, around plus 150 or so. You're only making 330. So this series price actually has a lot of value if you like Tampa. You're better off playing the series price than the money line parlay, which is unusual.
I would agree, and with the way the industry is moving and all the outlets, and I was speaking with you guys earlier last week about the webinar I was on and talking with these guys about the new sports books being developed and the apps that are out there right now with these prop plays and all that kind of stuff. And it's almost abnormal now for us to not see an MVP bet, a wager opportunity at your specific sports book that you're with. And looking at that, I completely agree with you. You're looking at Randy Arozarena if you're going with the Rays. You might as well bet him right now to win the MVP if you think they're going to win the World Series.
Yeah, I mean the only thing that could change that is if Brandon Law went out there and went 5 for 5 with 3 homers tonight or something like that. But the reality of that happening is slim.
By the way, I'm looking at an offshore book right now. Arozarena at 8-1. It allows 12-1 at both DraftKings and one of the offshores. 6.5 to 1 was DraftKings. That's actually low. I'm seeing them at 8-1 now, one of the offshores, and I haven't shopped the other prices. So it's a really interesting setup. I like where Dave went with that middle idea with the Dodgers. I mean, if you want to get fancy also, you could play the Dodgers just straight up tonight. You could cash that and be done with it and not have to lay, and even try to catch a bigger middle, but then you'd have to roll it over in Game 7 if you lose tonight.
Right.
But yeah, a lot of potential there, especially if you're getting them at 8-1. Interesting.
Dave, I think you might have set yourself up here when you said you're a boring capper, because now everyone's kissing your butt in the comment section. So good on you for that. Everyone's all over you now. Somebody says you're definitely the smartest one, or the wisest. All these compliments.
I know. I got the oldest.
Flowing right now. There's a river of compliments in this chat box right now.
I got the oldest locked up. If you want to kiss somebody's butt, there's a lot more attractive butts out there. I can guarantee you that.
I saw
funny
somebody
though, Andrew,
mentioning
boring does work in this industry because my money management, as we do on WagerTalk, is basically 4%. And I'll occasionally have a 5% play, like one this
Same
last
here.
week. And like, keep it simple, stupid. I mean, money management is not complicated. The reason majority of bettors lose is because you could give them 60% winners and they have terrible money management. They still find a way to lose because they're tripling up on one game, playing one unit in another game. It really is boring, and you grind out a profit, and you have several hundred plays a year, and you hit 55, 60% on a great year, and you just win. That's what the amateur doesn't realize is this actually should be somewhat boring. If it's exciting for you, you're doing it for the wrong reasons. You're not taking an investment approach.
I agree. Johnny Outlaw messaged, and I saw some people saying that I was missing a few questions. Guys, we'll give a minute or two here to answer any questions. But he asked about the KBO, the season. Playoffs start November 1st. There's been a lot of makeup games going on right now. Some games mean something, some don't. And that's certainly, I can speak, I think, for you, Dave, that's certainly been a part of our handicap over the past couple days.
I don't even know if I'll have anything until the playoffs start. I didn't play anything this morning. There's 3 games tomorrow morning, which I'll look at, but they're pricing everything accordingly now with the teams that are still trying for playoff positioning, because the 5 teams are already locked in. But the teams that are playing for positioning are inflated odds.
Mm-hmm. Guys, so if we're looking at this game tonight, and I mentioned props already, I mentioned different things like that, but let me ask you this, because obviously everybody in here is asking us, even though we've been talking about this for 31 minutes and 40 seconds here, everyone's asking, is it going 7? Is it going 7? Is it going 7? So let me ask you this, and I don't want a condescending answer, even though I'm probably going to get one. I'll start with you, Brian. What has to happen for each team for them to be successful tonight? What do you think are the keys to the game?
Well, the Dodgers got to be able to hit a lefty, and they're a good hitting team against lefties, but not as good as righties. If the Dodgers get to the lefty, let's say they score 3 runs in the first 5 innings, I think the Dodgers win. Other than that, I've got nothing really on this game tonight.
Would you say, Steve, it's key for the Tampa Bay Rays to get on the board early, to get to Gonsolin? The longevity of this game, the longer it goes, it favors the Dodgers, or is it because of the pen and some of the collapses we might have seen from the Dodgers that it might be longevity could be a good thing for them?
Yeah, no, I said it earlier. I mean, the X factor for me tonight is Snell. They have to get a good outing from him. I don't think the Dodgers necessarily expect a great Gonsolin. He only went 1 inning last time. And keep in mind, this is a rematch too. Snell and Gonsolin went 1 1/4 inning. And these two teams used 12 pitchers combined in that game last week. So Snell needs to go some distance, because I know you got to win tonight, but you also have to win tomorrow if you're Tampa, and you just can't be taxing that bullpen early. By the way, speaking of weather, roof's supposed to be open. I've been keeping an eye on Arlington, Texas, because the NASCAR race on Sunday only got about 50 laps in and got rained out. Was supposed to restart yesterday, never got it in. I'm looking at the weather now. It's 38 degrees with mist on the track in Arlington. It's right near the stadium, so we'll keep an eye on the weather conditions.
I don't see the roof being open if that's the
I
case.
don't either. It's been raining for like 2 days straight, and I looked yesterday. It was supposed to rain all Tuesday, so keep an eye on that roof condition. That does affect the total. The players have said ball goes 10, 15 feet farther with that roof open, especially the center field, so that could play it. And on the over-under, by the way, it's 8 guys. 4 to 4.5 first innings. It's the first time we've finally seen the first 5 innings a little bit higher than those final 4 innings that we've talked about in all the other games.
Dave, closing thoughts from you?
I hope I'm right. That Snell pitches a decent ball game, and that Roberts brings in the wrong relievers.
All right, well, we'll find
He's
out.
done it before, so,
To be determined if we'll see you guys again on First Pitch. But for now, for Brian, for Dave, for Steve, I'm Andrew. Thank you so much for joining us all season long. Enjoy the game tonight. Enjoy the baseball, and good luck with your bets. We'll see you tomorrow, potentially, right here on WagerTalk TV.